Welcome to Ring Talk, the weekly-ish Goodwin boxing show. It's going to be weekly now, right? The summer's over, and we're back. We're back. Goodwin Boxing's back very, very soon with myself, Martin Theobald, and Steve Goodwin, head of Goodwin Boxing. How's your summer, Steve?
All good, thank you. We had a bit of boxing, haven't we? We've been at a few big shows. Lots and lots to look forward to. Lots and lots of boxers in title fights. A real lot happening over the next couple of months. So it's good to be back.
Yeah, let's pick up on one of the things that we missed out on while we were away. Was you going up to Oakwell with Zach Chelly to go and take on Callum Simpson, defend his British title? Didn't work out the way you wanted. From a sort of neutral observer's perspective, sat at home, it wasn't even really a close fight. And I don't want to sound horrible about it, but it looked like Zach got hurt early on by a much bigger man in Callum Simpson, who put in a textbook performance, really, I thought. And it was credit to Callum Simpson for being as good as he was on the night.
I mean, I thought it may be that Callum Simpson is overhyped. I don't think he's totally proved that the hype isn't there, but I think he's proved that he's a very good fighter. But I think when he fights somebody, I want to see him fight somebody now who's as big as him, because Zach Chelly didn't lose that fight, in my opinion. This is just my opinion. It doesn't necessarily fit in with Zach or anybody else or trainer. He basically was on the night. The weight categories were hugely different. I think Callum Simpson could have been a stone and a half heavier in the ring, and it just looked like somebody who was fighting way outside his weight category. And when you reach the real high levels in your sport, if you remember Callum Smith was a super middleweight. He was humongous. You get these super duper big super middleweights. They have an outstanding advantage. And Callum Simpson is definitely one of those. And he hurt Zach early in the first round. And that really set the precedent for the fight. His work rate was intense. He never stopped coming forward. And really, it was just a case of one man was too big for the other, in my opinion. That's my opinion only. I'm not saying it's anybody else's. And when you've got that scenario, Callum is technically decent. And he was just too big, too strong, in my opinion, in that fight. And he won by a fair margin, and the right man won. And that's really it. And it was disappointed for Zach and his trainer Barry O'Connell. But obviously, when you have a loss, they will have to sit together and they will make a decision. And whoever's going to make that decision of what they're going to do going forward.
Yeah, and Zach had his moments in the fight. Certainly, sort of after the first 4 or 5 rounds, he started to come back into it, started to be the aggressor in some of the exchanges as well. And that's where he was getting the success, and he was sort of pushing Callum back. But yeah, I mean, overall, can't really argue with the outcome of it, the result.
Best man won on the night. Best man won on the night.
Yeah. How was Zach post-fight?
Well, he's gutted, obviously, like any fighter is when they lose their belt. But to me, he wasn't beaten on a level playing field. But I just, in my opinion, and it's my opinion, won't be his opinion, right? But he should be a lighter weight. He's too small for the best in that division, in my opinion.
Yeah, he needs to try and leverage those same advantages that Simpson had, but at 160, not 168. Or
that's my view, but that's just my view. Yeah.
No, I mean, that's sort of how it looked on the night from home as well. And so I say that from an outsider perspective with no insight particularly to the camp, but that's very much how it looked.
He would be a monster at middleweight, but he's a small super middleweight.
Yeah. So moving on from that night up in Oakwell, the world of boxing. What's going on? We got Anthony Joshua's big fight coming up at Wembley Stadium. I'm going to that.
Are you going? Are you?
Yeah. I was going to take my lad up to that. What do you make of the card?
I think it's all right. What do you? I mean, I think it's a good card. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's not the greatest card in the world, but I think it's really. These cards are getting better and better. these. I mean, the one in October that they're doing in abroad is very good. I mean, I'm very intrigued about. I think Cash will beat Shiraz will beat Tyler Denny, but I think it's an interesting fight. But I think I do think Shiraz is too. Again, I think Shiraz is a monster at middleweight, and I think he's too big for them. Very similar as Callum Simpson is at super middle, because if you put Zach Shelley in with Hamza Shiraz might still be the bigger one tonight, and that's a middleweight. So if Hamza Shiraz can be a middleweight, some of these other super middles could try and get down there. I think it'll probably be too big for Tyler Denny, but it's not a bad fight. Kakashi Warrington, not a bad little fight. Liam Smith, Josh Kelly holds a bit of interest. Boatsy Hutchinson, bit of interest again. Although, I think Boatsy will be too good. Chamberlain Padley's not a bad little fight. I think Chamberlain wins. I think overall, there's enough intrigue in those fights, isn't there, to keep you interested in watching each one.
Yeah, no, I'm really intrigued by it. Sort of overall, it's I mean, it's to the detriment of lots of other boxing. Don't get me wrong, because a lot of these fights would be headlining other fight nights that we're not getting. But if we're going to bundle it all up together, that seems to be the way boxing's going. I'm not here to moan about it, but it does.
You're getting depleted other shows, though, aren't you? Sky, Matchroom shows. It's depleting, and they're not signing new boxers. You look at Matchroom, no really big new signings. The only one signing anybody are the Queensview and Frank Warren. They seem to be the only one bothering to sign fighters. The rest seem to be, the quality seems to be diminishing in the UK, I think, of the shows.
No, I agree. And look at Fraser Clark, Fabio Wardley being put on the undercard of Beterbiev Bivol. I mean, that's a headline fight. It was a headline. It was, one of the most watched Sky fights of the last however many years. And yet it now ends up being a rematch on the undercard. So it's great if you're going to pay pay-per-view for one event, then they're making really good events. But it does sort of dilute and diminish the rest of the boxing product. So it depends what you want out of it, really. But I have a theory about this as well. I was discussing this over the weekend with a friend about sort of. I think I paid, I don't know, it's about 150 quid or something for the tickets each for the show. And then the sort of tickets that would have been 60 quid, 70 quid, sort of a few years back, when Joshua was selling out Wembley in 10 minutes or whatever.
With the help of StubHub, of course.
Well, yeah. So I have a theory about this, right? Only my thoughts. Don't sue me for this, anyone. I reckon that Turkey Al Sheikh is looking to buy up boxing, and that includes boxer Frank Warren, Eddie Hearn. I think he just wants to make boxing the Turkey Al Sheikh product. But to do that, you need to understand the value of what something's worth. So where these tickets were going out for 60 quid, but ended up on StubHub for 120 quid 15 minutes later, I reckon he said, bollocks to this, put it at the price that they end up as, and I want to see how many sell at that value. I want to see how many sell at the resale value that they magically ended up on StubHub as. And then let's see if the product sells out in 10 minutes as you claim, or whether actually it doesn't sell out in its entirety, which is the case at present, although they've released further tickets this week. Because how can you value how much to pay for something unless you know what its sort of sale value is? And I don't think anyone has a true comprehension of that when it all gets sort of magnified and multiplied by the likes of StubHub. So that's my theory. Are
there still tickets available? Because I heard Frank Warren say it's sold out, but it's not sold out then.
I looked last week just out of interest, and there were still plenty of tickets. But they have come out today, I think it was, and said they're going to release more tickets and make it the biggest ever event at Wembley. So I'll say that's my theory around it, is that they're trying to test the market as to, if you do it at the actual price, how does it go sort of sales wise, and then you can take a view on what you would pay for it as an overall product on the end of that. Just my view. We shall see. But yeah, it's sort of
who have you got? Joshua Dubois.
I'll go Joshua, but not with any confidence. Dubois is such an improved fighter, and the beating he took off Hrgovic to come through it and absolutely sort of just stop him through attrition almost, wasn't it? Like just walk through it. Joshua's going to have to do something special to sort of be able to withstand what Dubois can do. But I think he will. The experience will play out. What do you reckon?
No, I think Joshua beats him, but yeah, I think Joshua wins. But yeah, I think he'll have a bit too much. But if Dubois lands on him clean, so you can't write Dubois off. And you've got to
No.
remember, there's an interesting angle to this fight, right? People aren't picking up. Anthony Joshua was very, very close with Don Charles. They were really close in the past. And there was a bit of a fallout when Chisora was in the gym. But they've still been close for quite a long period of his career. So it's not going to be the greatest to see for him to have Don Charles in the opposite corner, who's somebody who knows a lot about him, knows his innermost, has helped him in his early days before the Olympics. And Anthony Joshua did show a bit of fragileness when he fought Andy Ruiz mentally. So is that going to have an effect on him? Because you don't know. And you've got to remember, he's never had somebody in the opposite corner who he's had a very close relationship with.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. And also, sort of this return of Anthony Joshua is what? It's against an MMA fighter and the other fella I can't remember the name of right now, but
I mean, well, yeah, but he looked good doing it, didn't he? I mean, he did look good.
he looked good, but it's not against sort of world level fighters. And
I'm just looking, so his 4 wins have been Jermaine Franklin, Robert Hillenius, Otto Wallin,
Wilding, that's the one I couldn't think of.
Francis Ngannou. It's not the greatest, is it?
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe Dubois is going to get him at the right time, but I'm intrigued to find out. And the rest of the fights on there, they're interesting enough for me to warrant going and having a day out down there. But better than that, we got 3 Goodwin shows coming up. One of which we'll preview in its entirety next week. But the other ones we're just going to quickly touch on some of the big fights that are coming up. So I've got them in front of me. September 14th, York Hall. 2 big fights headlining that. Start off with Peter Merger and Ben Lilly for the Southern Area Bantam.
Yeah, so Ben Lilly was just fought for the English title, lost a close decision. Peter Merger's a former Southern Area champion at Super Bantam. He's excited to come down to Bantam. That's a real pick and fight. It's a real fight that people in boxing are divided over. It's just going to be a real cracking fight between two really gutsy warriors who are trying to really make their jump back up to the English title level. It's going to be a cracker, an absolute cracker. And, you know, most people I speak to about it are sort of split on who's going to win. So it's a good trade fight.
Oh, it's brilliant. And Peter Merger, for those that haven't seen him, hopefully a few would have seen him when he was on Sky Sports. DAZN. He had a fight on there. But for those that haven't seen, he's a tough man, isn't he? He's absolute nails. I think he probably would accept that he's got his limitations and his limit as to where he's going to go in the world. But he gives everything when he's in there. He's never in dull fights.
Exactly that.
He's a tough, hard man who works hard. And the other one on there, Linus Udofia, going to become a 2-time English middleweight champion against Dan Catlin. And I was saying to you off camera, I don't know enough about Dan Catlin to make an educated view on this, but you've assured me this is a hard fight.
This is not a fight we would have chosen, but it was mandated by the board. So Catlin knocked Jack Kilgannon out of the ring. He hits like a mule. His sparring stories of power are really highly regarded. I've been told by plenty of people up there, up in the north, they think they win this. They think they'll knock out Linus. Linus is a brilliant technician. Was close to beating Denzel Bentley for the British. His only other reversal came when he had his eyes shut. He didn't lose the fight, really. It was the Kieran Conway fight. So, you know, Linus is a top-level operator. I think he's going to have enough to beat Dan Catlin and move back on towards the British title, because the British title is going to free up when you think that Denzel Bentley's going for world honours, Hamza Shiraz is going for world honours, Brad Pauls has got the title. So it's going to free up for Linus to really put himself in a good position to fight for the British title within the next sort of 9 to 12 months. So he needs to win this. It's a absolute must-win fight for him. But he's got home advantage and he's got all the talent in the world. And hopefully he's able to do it. He's getting married 9 days before the fight.
Wow. That'd be a hell of a gift if he goes and picks up the belt again.
Yeah, exactly. I think he will. I think, well, but it's going to be a real fight. So, you know, it's worthy of coming to watch that fight alone. That's a TV fight. It should be on TV, that fight. It shouldn't be on it. It shouldn't be on a York Hall show. It should be on TV.
Yeah, and that's absolutely right. Those two losses that you mentioned about for Linus, the Denzel Bentley one, which was sort of hair's width apart from winning. And the Conway one where he got caught in the eye and that was it. Linus is still, he's got every tool in the box, every tool. He's a top operator. As I say, I don't know enough about Catlin to be able to make that judgment. But if Linus can put it all together and sort of put on a show for the evening, we've seen that Terry Stewart can get the performances out of the fighters through the Brad Pauls fight, through Ellis Stewart and what he's doing with him. He's got every opportunity, as you say, to put himself back into that mix, hopefully for TV fights, hopefully to push on and really sort of have that period in his career that he deserves.
Yes.
Yeah, so get yourselves down, York Hall, September 14th for that one. But while we're talking about the British title, we haven't sort of mentioned him as yet. Brad Pauls, is there any news on, has anyone come knocking for that title yet?
No, he's in Cornwall. He's just been on the BBC today. I think he spent a month. He spent a month being the celebrity of Cornwall, getting free meals, free drinks, free this, free that. He's been a guest at everything. So TV, radio, and everything else. So he's had a month of being like the local celebrity and getting all the freedoms of the cities and all this. So it's been a fantastic time, and he deserves it all. But obviously, he'll be back to training. You know, Frank Warren will look at the roster and think, what fight does he want to make? But obviously, if Bentley and Shiraz are going to move on, there's no automatic within the Warren stable. So it'll be a case of they've got 6 months for Brad to defend it. So he's got to defend it sometime between now and January. So once they've had a look at the options, they'll come to us, we'll chat, and then we'll sort it. But Brad will fight anybody. It's no big deal for him. He'll fight anybody, apart from Linus, of course.
I've always asked about that, and they've always said no. So we'll take a look at October the 12th. I don't even know, sort of, I said earlier, we'll just skim over what's coming up. But I don't even know how to skim over this one. So
there's another big fight to come on, which we're hoping to finalise in the next 2 weeks. So for what I believe is going to happen here, we're going to have 2 English titles. 1, 2, 4 Southern Area titles. 2 English final eliminators and a Southern Area final eliminator all on the same card. Now, that has never been done, never, ever been done off TV in the history of British boxing. This is going to be a history-making show by a mile. It's unbelievable show, unbelievable show.
And that's 9 significant fights, and you're only allowed 10 on a card.
Yeah. They've got 1 undercard fight to come, and that's... yeah, it's just amazing.
I'll touch on some of them. We'll go to the other ones in future weeks. I promise anyone that I leave out this week, I don't do so out of spite or intent. It's just that you've got a few weeks. We'll cover it in time. Don't worry. So looking at the main ones, the English title fights you mentioned. So Yasser El-Gainer and James Scarrett, English super lightweight title. Yasser, sort of his stock has just gone through the roof, isn't it? It's
so it's the Southern Area champion against the Midlands Area champion, combined record of 18-0, doing battle for an English title. I mean, what more can you see on a show? 2 undefeated fighters. Do you know something else about the 9 title fights? Every fighter has a positive record. There are no fighters here in the title fights that we're going to do that have a negative record. They've all got positive records. Have you ever seen that before?
No. No, it's a mad one.
It's just great. It's just fantastic. So yeah, so that's a great fight. Obviously, we think Yas is going to win. We think he's a special talent. Um, but he's, it's his step up from winning the Southern Area against Aaron Prosper last time, where he beat an undefeated fighter to win the Southern Area. Now he's going to try and beat another undefeated fighter to win the English title.
Yep. And then another one we're going to go on to now is English lightweight title. So two lads who aren't undefeated, but that's almost testament to the fact that they've taken hard fights. Youssef, we'll come on to in a second, but maybe took fights that you wouldn't have taken for him at the time if he was managed by
I'll say
yourself.
something. He's undefeated under my management.
There we go. That's what we'll go with. Youssef Kamari against Levi Kinciona. English lightweight title. But yeah, two lads, they don't carry undefeated records, but they have records that show that they will step up and fight anyone.
Yeah. And I mean, listen, Yusuf was given the wrong fights at the wrong time, in my opinion. That's my simple version of it all. But I didn't choose those fights. He shouldn't have took the Reece Bellotti fight. He wasn't in condition to do it. Long story as to why he did it, but it's nothing to do with me. I wasn't his manager at the time. So for those that don't know, I managed Yusuf for the first 3 years of his career where he had the perfect record. And then he was managed by somebody else for a short period of time. The wheels sort of fell off and he's come back and now he's building again. We're building him back. He's still not won a title. He's probably the best boxer in Britain that's had 19, or he's had 20 fights that's not won a title. So hopefully we're going to put that right on the 12th of October and Yusuf's going to get his first professional boxing title. But
Yeah.
again, it's not an easy fight. Kinciona's done it hard way, took hard fights. He's managed by Kevin Merry. I've got a bit of a score to settle with Kevin Merry because he manages Callum Simpson and he also manages the lad that beat Lewis Frimpong for the English title.
Yes.
So it's payback time. And he manages Dan Catlin, who fights Lyle Shudofia. So it's payback time in London.
You got to bring him down south now. Yeah, every time you go up north, it doesn't end so well. So
We'll have him down south. We'll get some revenge, hopefully, all things being well.
Yeah, and a special mention to one of the other fights on there that I just love because it'll be fun. Timon Duglin, Ross McGuigan, because Ross is sort of, he's gone and taken hard fights. He's gone sort of taken opportunities where others wouldn't take them. And he's just a sort of big lump of a guy, but like a lovely bloke. But when you see him in the ring, he looks so spiteful and like he just comes to fight. And if someone's not there to fight him, he gets really annoyed about it. Just as a neutral boxing fan, you'll enjoy that fight if you're there that night.
I said, well, that's for the Southern Area light heavyweight. But again, the thing is, though, Martin, you want to go through these fights, all of them, and you'd want to watch them all because they're just fantastic fights. And yet, it's like each one of them could headline a small hall card, right? And yet, there's going to be 9 of them that could all headline, but we're putting 9 on at once. This is our version of the Turkey al Sheikh of the small hall.
It's true though. Like every single one of them could justify being a small hall headliner. But I'm not going to go through the rest of them because we'll be here all night, and we've got weeks to sort of preview it and build it up. But that's Saturday, 12th of October, so people can get tickets for that now. I'd advise getting them now because it will sell very, very quickly.
There'll be no tickets on the door that night. It will sell out. We're seeing ring sides are flying out. This will sell out, no doubt, no doubt.
Yeah, and the week before that, my son has his first amateur fight.
Does he? Where's he doing that?
Up in Leicester.
But does he? What, on the 5th?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a shame. I'd have gone to. We've got 2 parties to go to that night, which we've got to go to. I'd have come up to Leicester because it's only an hour away from us.
I've had a fair few people that sort of say, "Oh, I just want to get him through this one." Sort of get him through one, see how he gets on, and without sort of having too many eyes on him, hopefully. But
I would still have come if I wasn't at the party. I'd have go.
I'll keep you updated as to how he gets on, though.
Yes. Oh, good luck to him.
Yeah, I've just had to go and buy a new gum shield, and I said I'll spar him out in the garden. So if I turn up next week with a couple of black eyes and a bit of bruising, then
I want to see if he can follow his dad and be. You're undefeated, aren't you?
My undefeated white collar career, yeah, of 2-0. It's
exactly.
But yeah, no, that's it for the week. Right? Is there anything else in the boxing world that we haven't touched?
Not really. I think there's been a bit of a quiet time in the last 3 or 4 weeks, hasn't it? Because it's August time, but it'll all spice up. It'll all spice up next month. There's loads
Yeah.
to come, isn't there?
Are
Loads
you
to
going to watch the Eddie Hearn Netflix
Yeah,
documentary?
certain. Yeah, I find that really interesting because there's a lot of people there that I know or have dealt with, and it'd be quite interesting to watch it. Again, some of those documentaries are. I remember watching the Arsenal one. I found it really, really good because they showed the bad of the players and the good. But if you watch, say, the Beckham documentary, let's just say I think that was narrated rather than acted rather than reality. So documentaries are good if they're not preconceived. So hopefully they're going to do a warts and all one, and that'd be quite good.
Yeah, I agree completely. Those like the Drive to Survive for the F1 sort of shows all angles of it, good and bad. Um, as you say, the All or Nothing one, sort of the Spurs documentary, I have a vested interest in
Yeah,
that.
of course.
Was interesting. I mean this in the nicest possible way. I'm hoping that Barry and Eddie Hearn just aren't that powerful that they can sort of stop Netflix from showing the bad bits. David Beckham probably is and could stop sort of certain bits going out or dictating where the narration of it.
No, that was actually filmed by Beckham, from what I understand, by Beckham's own documentary crew. So they
Right.
filmed it,
Yeah.
edited it, and published it.
Yeah. It felt like it as well.
I'll tell you something off air about that in a second.
All right.
I've got 2 bits of news to tell you. I'll tell you off air as soon as we finish.
Yeah.
Can't say on here, I'll get sued.
So no, I look forward to seeing I think it's Matchroom as a whole, isn't it? It's not just the boxing
Yeah,
or Eddie
no,
Hearn.
exactly.
Yeah, so no, that'd be interesting. We'll keep an eye on Netflix for that. It'll be hopefully sort of bring new eyes to boxing as well.
That's good.
So yeah, that's it. That's the boxing world. We'll be back next week where we'll have a bigger preview of the upcoming cards. Certainly the September 7th one. And yeah, in the meantime, get back into boxing. Summer's over, moving towards a new season. Thank you very much, Steve.
Cheers. I'll see you next week.
Cheers.